Good morning, my name is Haley Comet and welcome to Just Another Magic Monday. And make sure to stay tuned for the end of this video for a very special, sparkly, celestial announcement. Your astrological influences for the week of May 30th to June 5th, what is happening in the cosmos, and furthermore, what I'm more interested in doing here on my channel every single Monday morning. Rain or shine, Great Astrologer About Astrology is breaking down how you can leverage these astrological influences to live your most magical, aligned life. And this week, we've got a Gemini new moon, which starts this week, which normally new moons are like, yeah, new moon, new me, new intentions. But it's answering to a retrograde Mercury, so it may be best to refresh initiatives, connections that have already been cemented in some way. But that Mercury retrograde doesn't last for long because it does station direct on Friday. We got through it, guys. We did it, Joe. My goodness, I just feel like this one was particularly mischievous. You know, if there's one thing Mercury retrograde is going to do, it's cause a headache. And I just feel like with it stationing in Gemini, definitely a little bit more trickster, a little bit more humor to be found in the cosmos. And then I noticed, let me know if you notice this as well, when the sun ingressed into Gemini, it got even more mischievous because now the sun was answering to a retrograde ruler. So alas, we are somewhat in the clear. Do keep in mind, you'll want to wait until it clears the shadow to really launch anything new or to put anything out there. I have a whole video that goes into depth on that particular transit. And it's so funny because the very next day, it's almost like Saturn looks at us just having this Mercury's direct party, like, yes, it's direct, the mischief is over, and it's like, they're having too much fun. We've got to squash this party. Because one thing that Saturn's going to do is it's going to squash the party, ruin the fun. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Saturn hater, I'm an astrologer, so I understand that every single planet has a very particular role that it plays within the cosmos and within our life, and Saturn is super important. It's not mean for no reason. It does sort of party crash our Mercury's direct celebrations when it chooses to station retrograde on Saturday, giving a very Saturnian vibe. So you're gonna wanna know how you can navigate these cosmos day by day. Timestamps below, but alas, let's move into vibe check of the week. So cheers, happy Monday. I'm gonna put down this cup. I know this is a gigantic cup. I think my toxic trait is that I just rock with my tea bags. I know you're supposed to take them out. I don't know why. I just like having the little tag there. I don't know, I don't really taste a difference. My friend who's really into tea is just horrified that I even drink tea bags. He says it's not good quality tea. And even on top of that, I just let the tea bag in there to soak for the entire duration of when I'm drinking the tea. And I really like tea in just these ginormous cups, so maybe it just allows it to diffuse more. I don't know. It's my toxic trait, the way that I drink tea. My boyfriend also notices that I leave like half drink cups of tea all over the home. So I'm a disaster, but this tea is amazing. It is rose lavender chamomile. I just figured I wanted to move into this week with sort of a calm vibe. It's kind of foggy here in San Diego. So without further ado, let me know what you're drinking below and cheers. Let's make this a beautiful Monday. So the vibe check of the week. And if you're new here, this is essentially an overview, a theme, a situation. So you sort of have something to emotionally latch onto when relating to the week ahead astrology. So the vibe check this week is I want you to envision that your friend Maggie, and keep up because there's a lot of layers here, there's a lot of dynamics. If there's one thing that Gemini is going to do, it's going to know all the goss and be the one to connect all these different pieces. So hopefully you guys are with me in this energy. I want you to think of your friend Maggie coming to you and saying, hey girl, you wouldn't believe this, but I saw Cecilia's cousin with her crush. They were at the mall, they were at the food court, it looked romantic. And you're like, oh my gosh. And Maggie's not that close to Cecilia, and you're close with Cecilia, and you're like, well, I've got to tell Cecilia. But internally, you're like, does she know? Like, would this ruin her vibe? She's had a crush on this person forever, and now he's with her cousin. Like, oh my goodness. And every time you're with Cecilia, you just have so much guilt. And you're like, do I tell her? Do I tell her? Do I tell her? You can't sleep. You can't eat. You're like, do I tell her? Do I not? Because do keep in mind, Gemini is the energy. I'm not calling you guys two-faced at all. I hate it when people use that word to describe Gemini. It's not that, but they are able to sort of entertain two thoughts at once, which is why these individuals are so witty and so quick and so intelligent, is because they're able to, and not necessarily in a weighing way like Libra, but they're able to really consider like two pathways around, okay, this is what happens if I tell Cecilia, this is what would happen if I didn't tell Cecilia. Do I tell Cecilia? Do I not? Do I not do it? Yes. And finally, you come to the decision, you're going to tell Cecilia. And you tell her, and you think this guilt is going to be lifted off your shoulders, right? Because that's sort of the vibe of Friday when Mercury stations direct. Like, we're moving forward, right? You've been ruminating, you've been back, you've been forth, you've been up, you've been down. Do I tell her? Do I not? Does she know? Is this crush that important to her? But you just need to tell her because it's weighing heavily on you. And then the consequences come in because Saturn stations retrograde the next day. And suddenly, unbeknownst to you, maybe on some level you were aware this could have happened, now Cecilia is going to fight her cousin because her cousin knew and was doing some trifling stuff in the food court. So now you've got two cousins fighting. Cecilia's mad at you because now she found out that you've known for 3 weeks. And it's like with Saturn retrograde, it's sort of the energy around consequences and ramifications catching up. So there is this forward momentum with Mercury stationing direct. It's like, oh, finally I can move forward. Cecilia knows I can sleep again. But it's like, oh, but now they're fighting and Maggie's mad that I told her and Cecilia's mad that I waited so long. And now all this stuff is out there because I said to Cecilia what the tea was. And yeah, I'm able to move forward with my own conscious, but now we have all this stuff catching up. So you kind of got that. I'll give more texture as we move through the week, but hopefully that sort of just gives you something to latch onto. I would definitely say it's just so important to be careful, and not careful in a fearful way. Be mindful and be intentional with your language. Really, when Mercury's retrograde, I guess overall Gemini season, but particularly with Mercury retrograde, because with this time, Mercury is essentially traversing through terrain that it will pass once again, right? Like about next week, we're going to be repeating all of the terrain that Mercury treaded through. And so with that, there can be this revisiting around, okay, Maggie told you what? And when did you tell me? And you didn't tell me until this moment. So it's not the time that I would lie. Not saying any of my Magic Monday individuals would do that, but it's not the time I would lie or be deceitful or tell someone something that you wouldn't want everyone to know, because there's just this energy around words coming back to bite us. And maybe with Mercury direct, we can have this energy on being able to move forward. Maybe we were fine, we dialed in the details, maybe we made a decision. But with Saturn retrograde, there can be this energy around karma catching up. Now, I don't want anyone to hear that as fear. Typically when outer planets are retrograde, I've spoke to this at length, but essentially when outer planets are retrograde, it's not the most intensely personal thing. It more so speaks to collective themes. So with Saturn retrograde, it more so speaks to what we've reaped, we sow, right? What it is that you've put out there, we get back. And with Saturn, it's around structures, it's around rules, it's around restrictions, it's about consequences, about what it is that we've been putting in the effort towards and what it is we haven't. It's sort of the energy with these two planets, like switching direction around if there has been something you haven't been honest about, or maybe you've been too honest. That's sort of the energy around having to sort of reap the consequences of that. And Saturn stuff is inevitable. It happens. It's nothing to be fearful of. I believe we're going to see this more so in terms of government, things of that nature, with Saturn retrograde sort of reviewing some of the legislature. I think that's going to be a theme of it. I wouldn't fear yourself too much, be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I not do? But if there's something where it's like, okay, I need to do the right thing here and I didn't do the right thing, with Saturn retrograde, we could have to review that decision, okay? And if you made a decision, you're like, I don't know if that was the right one, Saturn retrograde is gonna let you know. Saturn is karma, it's time, it's longevity. So with it going through terrain of the sky that it's traversed through this spring, it's sort of the energy around reviewing what it is that we've been working towards, certain decisions that we've made, and sort of echoing it back towards us, okay? Again, not the most personal thing ever unless it's crossing an angle of yours or a planet of yours, but just something to keep in mind with Saturn retrograde and with Mercury switching direction. Like, don't put out there what you don't want to sow back. And like, yes, in this vibe check, like in this imaginary situation, you were doing the right thing. Like Cecilia had to know, but like sometimes when the cat's out of the bag, I don't know where I read this, but I remember reading somewhere, some book or something. It was just like, words are like toothpaste in that when you squeeze it out, you can't get it back in. Okay, so just being super mindful around your language. It's like toothpaste, okay, coming out of a tube. Once something's out there, it's really hard to rectify it. And yes, you know, sometimes we have to tell people hard things. Sometimes we have to have hard conversations. There's nothing wrong with that. But with Saturn retrograde, we might have to deal with some of the ramifications around that truth being out there. So without further ado, let's dive into our day-by-day breakdown. So Monday, the 30th, we have a Gemini new moon. And this is a pretty quiet new moon. I mean, not quite quiet, it's in Gemini, which is a little chatty, a little witty, a little intelligent. It is answering to retrograde Mercury. So as I mentioned, new moons are typically new starts, what it is that we should manifest, what it is that we want to launch out there and put out there. With it in Gemini, initiatives supporting the Gemini portion of our chart. Look at your chart and see where Gemini is, what house it falls in. If you need any help, just let me know your rising below and I'll let you know where it falls in within your chart. I'll use whole sign because it's hard to tell with Placidus unless I have your chart open. But I want you to look at the Gemini sector of that chart. And what I want you to consciously put some effort towards, because I'm aware that it is Memorial Day, so some of you could be traveling or something alike. But if possible on Monday, is take some time, whether mentally, I would really recommend writing. Gemini does rule the hand. So writing down this particular prompt and your particular answer to this prompt, I want you to consider in that house where this Gemini new moon falls, it's at 9 degrees Gemini. I want you to consider, where is it that I can infuse this energy with a little bit more curiosity, a little bit more lightness, a little bit more playfulness, and where can I really activate initiatives from the past that I could have forgotten about? So I want to give some examples. So let's say that this energy is in your 7th house of one-to-one contacts and relationships. This could be energy that you sit down and you're like, you know, things have gotten sort of stale or just sort of like heavy with my relationship, which obviously happens sometimes. Gemini is sort of our ability to be a little light with life at times, to be open to the new. So maybe you would in that journal prompt say, okay, I want to infuse some fun and some curiosity into my relationship in these ways. Maybe you could put on this list, I want to reconnect with this person, where I would just like hang out with them and I would laugh. Or maybe this falls in your 10th house and you can like sort of think back on, wow, I really had this mental interest around numerology, and you know, I started that podcast and I did 2 episodes. Maybe I can reinvigorate that passion, that interest, because Gemini is what we're interested by. And the downside of Gemini, guys, I know I've made some snarky comments. I generally do enjoy the sign Gemini, but with Gemini, the downside sometimes is that they can be a little, they could be like a little butterfly, you know, going from flower to flower. They can sort of flit from topic to topic, which is why they're so intelligent, right? But there can be a sector within the house that it impacts. So like 6th house, 2nd house, wherever it lands, where it's like you were interested in something at one point and it never like really came to be. Because that's the downside of Gemini energy, is that it can get distracted at times because it's such a wide world and they have so much to learn about. But perhaps there's a dream or there's initiative within that particular portion of your chart that you can sort of reinvigorate that mental interest that you had. Because why I'm sort of giving you this particular prompt around things of the past is because it's answering to a retrograde Mercury. So it's not necessarily the most forward steam, like let's launch something brand new, but more so, what were my interests of the past and what have I abandoned? What haven't I fully put out there? And how can I infuse more light and more fun and more playfulness into what I already have existing within my chart? And there's a really nice energy because it sextiles Mars and Jupiter. So it's just this like positive, lighthearted invitation of more fun, more zest. And maybe there's something from the past where it's like, oh my gosh, I've always loved poetry. Why am I not writing more poetry? Or I've always loved podcasting. Why am I not podcasting? And I keep mentioning words just because that is supportive for Gemini, but Gemini is also supportive of any sort of connection, any sort of mental interest, intellectual interest, anything of that nature. So love, that is your homework assignment. We typically don't have homework in Magic Monday 101. So that happens around 4 a.m. PST. Do keep in mind the new moon energy is active up to 3 days after. So I don't want you to panic if you are traveling on Monday and you're like, Haley, Comet, I can't do the prompt. I'm listening to this on Tuesday. You can do the prompt, love. I would just really recommend taking some time to sort of contemplate what in your life now, or maybe from the past, you can infuse a sort of lighthearted, playful, fun, interesting energy into my life. If there's one thing that the Gemini new moon sextiling Mars and Jupiter in Aries is going to do, is sort of like reinvigorate what it is that we're interested in or what it is that we're curious by. So really take some time to sort of flesh that out within your mind. And then that evening, the Gemini moon sextiles Chiron in Aries. And with the Gemini new moon, it's about writing our own story, right? And since it's answering to retrograde Mercury, it's about maybe flipping back a couple of chapters and remembering the supported characters that sort of drifted off, or the storyline that was like, hey, where did that go? We were doing a podcast. We're hanging out with that person. Where did that go, right? It's about reclaiming and rewriting our story, even the parts that aren't that pretty, even the parts that are messy. With the sextile to Chiron in Aries, there can be the sharpening energy on Monday. Keep in mind, sextiles are a opportunity energy. It's not a given, but there can be energy on Monday evening when you're journaling, when you realize, oh, I stopped podcasting because I got those comments about people telling me that my voice reminded them of Donald Duck, and then I just stopped altogether. But maybe there can be this reframing around, okay, but I see what I learned from that experience, and I don't really sound like Donald Duck. I'm trying to think what kind of voice would even sound like that, but hopefully no one out there has gotten that comment. So on Tuesday, it's really fascinating because the moon makes two aspects at the same minute. So the Gemini moon trines Saturn in Aquarius, and it squares Neptune in Pisces. Now, one thing that Gemini is going to do is it's going to think, and with that, there can be these rushing thoughts. A lot of people experience Neptune aspects as heightened anxiety because it can confuse what it is that we're feeling. It can make us more sensitive. With the really mental speed of the Gemini moon, we can be feeling all of these things and not sure where they're coming from, or just have a lot of anxiety. And then at the same time, it trines Saturn. So there is this gift around being able to work on and work towards things in a very sort of methodical, logical way. Thank you, trine to Saturn. But with the square to Neptune, what you're going to want to be mindful of is just handling things that are in front of you, like trying not to put too much energy into, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Because Neptune is imagination and a square is a harsh aspect. So our mind of the Gemini moon, racing, can sort of get out of perspective. And with the trine to Saturn, it can be productive should we just stay on task, stay with what's in front of us, and what we're working on in this particular moment. You know, every single Gemini moon, as it's been squaring Neptune Pisces, I've mentioned this every single Magic Mondays, I've said, have a little to-do list, put a little star after you do things. Isn't that so satisfying? I love having a good to-do list. It just makes me feel, there is no better feeling than putting a little star next to the items that you've done each week. Is that just my Virgo moon showing? Please let me know if there's any to-do list people out there. Anybody? And then after that little Gemini moon squaring Neptune, trining Saturn, it's void. So that afternoon, I wouldn't do anything terribly important. While it's going to be hard to stay on task and stay focused in the morning due to that building square to Neptune, try to get a lot of your work done, like really leverage that trine to Saturn. Be methodical, try not to get ahead of yourself, don't rush, Mercury's still retrograde, because then the moon's void from 1:10 p.m. to about 10:40 p.m., at which point it enters Cancer, which is an invitation directly to the feels, anchoring us into home, into family, with what feels safe. So on Wednesday the 1st, happy June, the Cancer moon is in its domicile, so it's stronger there, so it's very much attuning us to what it is that we're feeling, what's safe. It's a little feisty. It's a little angry. Cancer is the crab. So we're going to feel a little crabby, shall we say, and a little feisty because that Cancer moon squares Mars and Aries. And this is an interesting matchup because they're both in their domicile. So they're both strong. So they both came to this fight with weapons, right? And with it, we could just be more reactive emotionally. Keep in mind, with the moon, Mars, Jupiter, these are cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are concerned with taking action, initiating. Cancer moon is going to take action on emotion. Mars in Aries and Jupiter in Aries, who's answering to that Mars, is going to take action based on instinct. So we can notice we're a little bit more volatile, we're a little bit more knee-jerk, we're a little bit more inclined to react on our emotions, and maybe be a little more feisty or spunky than we would typically be, like the story I shared last week. As well as, so if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen some of the posts. I mean, it's happening all around the spiritual astrological community, is these scammers. These scammers are out of control. Please, if anyone slides in your DMs saying that they have a message for you, they are fake. Legitimate practitioners will never do that to you. Truly, we trust that you will know the right time for you and your journey to book with us. And they impersonated me, and they've done it on TikTok, but it wasn't that personal to me because no one got successfully scammed. And on TikTok, I love TikTok, but it's not like people who follow me there aren't from like high school or like middle school or like college. Like they were reaching out to exes. My scammer was out here sliding in my ex's DMs saying, "Beloved, I have a message for you. Please book a reading with me." Oh my gosh, that was their Mercury retrograde story. I'm telling you, Mercury retrograde will bring the exes out of the woodwork, whether it's the real one or an impersonated version of them. But why I bring that to the surface is because, you know, with this Aries energy, we could be more knee-jerk, right? We could be more reactive. You know, Venus and Taurus is trying to get everyone to calm down. The Gemini sun is trying to have some fun and socialize. But Aries, it's a little feisty. Like when I got so angry with this impersonator because they've been scamming people, which breaks my heart because usually people who seek readings are in need of not necessarily healing always, sometimes healing, but some sort of like big picture reorientation to their purpose. Like typically a lot of people who come to me for astrology readings, in some way they feel a little lost. And that's a really important role to have, is connect someone to their chart when they're feeling that way. And it's not something that I take lightly. So to have someone taking advantage of those people, I was furious. And normally I'm not that mad. Like anger is probably the emotion that I'm least connected to. But I finally had one Instagram account left that they had blocked. And I finally got them when they were asleep, because on my other Instagram accounts, I would comment something and then they would just block me right away. But on this one, once the first comment posted, I was like, yes, it's on. So I did snarky comments on every single post of theirs, which was really just posts of mine. Pointless, futile. Hopefully it made people realize that that was not really me. But for the most part, I probably just had a thumb workout for no reason, but it was quite cathartic. Like I was commenting things like scam with a side of jam. I was comparing them to Elizabeth Holmes, which by the way, I just did a video on the astrology of scammers. If you want to check that out, she's one of the people that I discuss. But yeah, I had all sorts of sassy comments and it felt sort of good. So I just want to say, if anyone else has been a little more sassy lately, it's the Aries energy, and on Wednesday, you know, it's coming from an emotional sort of knee-jerk sort of way. And put it somewhere, maybe a kickboxing class. Try not to, you know, lash out at anyone important to you in your life. There is a nice tempering energy in between the Cancer moon squaring Mars and Jupiter, with the Cancer moon sextiling Venus and Taurus. So, you know, if you're feeling a little crabby, maybe get a nice bite to eat, take a little nap. Sometimes that can affect our mood more than we realize. On Thursday, the 2nd, the Cancer moon squares Chiron and Aries, so there could sort of be a ping or sort of a wound. Like this is sort of the part of the vibe check where it's like, this is weighing so heavily on me. Do I tell Cecilia? It's so hard to have information like that you know is going to emotionally devastate or affect the person that you're telling. Like it weighs really heavily on you, right? And it's not to say that'll be the story for every single person, but there can be this wound around the past with the Cancer moon squaring Chiron in Aries, because Cancer moon is very nostalgic, it's very sentimental, it's very attached to the past. And with the square to Chiron, there could be this energy around reviewing what was and being like, wow, it's never going to be like that ever again. And things are more sentimental right now with Mercury retrograde. We're reviewing the past, which is why a lot of people hear from their exes, Mercury retrograde, whether it's the real ex or an impersonated one. It's typically a time we're reviewing the past, and with the Cancer moon square Chiron in Aries, there could be this pang around the version of me in college didn't have to go to work every day, or when I lived in that other apartment, I didn't have to deal with these trash noises every morning waking me up. There's just this pang about being like, I wish it was like it was. However that Harry Styles song goes. No, it's not the same as it was, that song. And then this is what's so interesting is that happens, and right after the Cancer moon sextiles Uranus and Taurus, and it's like, yeah, it's not the same as it was, and that's a good thing. Like, yeah, you're romanticizing living in that old apartment because right now you're hearing the trash and it's super, super noisy. But remember when you had that flood that destroyed your shoes? And remember when your neighbor was super creepy and would always stare on you? Like, sometimes we could romanticize the past, and it's like, girl, you are not seeing it clearly. You're not seeing it clearly. With Cancer moon sextile Uranus and Taurus, there really is this ability to be able to get ourselves out of that doom spiral of being like, it's not the same as it was, and be like, yeah, and that's a good thing. Let's get to work. Okay, when you were in college, all you could afford was ramen, and now you have a job, so you can't afford to eat some good food. Like, let's just be mindful around over glorifying or over romanticizing the past. You can look back. It's the last day of Mercury retrograde in its full day. It stations the next day. So you can look back, you can remember, you can hold those memories within your heart. But again, we're moving forward. Mercury's about to go direct. And I want you to pay attention to any dreams that you have on Thursday night, like Friday morning, just because the Mercury station's direct, and we also have Cancer moon trining Neptune in Pisces. And whenever there's Neptune aspects, I mean, I have crazy dreams every single night, but particularly around Neptune aspects. The most recent one during a Neptune aspect, and I don't know why, like, my boyfriend woke me up because he does every morning to bring me coffee, and he just saw that I looked distraught, and he was like, what's going on? I was like, I was just in a dream, and they were serving, guys, listen to this, fried cod soup. So it was like little balls, and they were fried, and then you would eat into it, and it was fish soup. Oh. And that, like, you know, when you wake up and you were just in a dream, so you're like, what is happening? It was like one of those situations, and he was like, that's not a bad dream. And I was like, that sounds disgusting. That's not a bad dream to you. It felt so real. Why would someone make that? Does that sound good to anyone? Would anyone eat that? I don't know. I was in a weird mood all day. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, that sounds so gross. Cod? I don't even eat cod, I don't think. And then bright and early, Friday the 3rd, Mercury stations direct at 1 a.m. PST. And again, walk, don't run sort of energy, just being mindful. Whenever a planet stations, we feel it like stronger, right? Because it stations to switch directions. So on Friday, even though it's stationing direct, we could still experience technological difficulties, miscommunication. So loves, we are not out of the woods, but there can be this energy around being like, I can move forward with my life. Now that I have successfully missed the past, I can finally move forward. So on Friday the 3rd, I just also want you to be mindful of the moon's void from about 8:15 a.m. to 11:38 a.m. When the moon's void, important tasks you must avoid. And with the moon entering Leo, we could find that we feel more creative, we feel more bold, we're in the mood to move forward, right? Which is nice with Mercury stationing direct. Like, this was the portion where it's like, we've chosen to tell Cecilia. And now this thing that was keeping us stuck, because sometimes when we have to make a major decision, it sort of keeps us stuck. And I haven't been recommending my clients to make a major decision while Mercury's retrograde, because it really is a time to handle and to kind of clarify things of the past. But if there's been something where you just feel stuck, it's really hard to move forward. So in our vibe check, it's like, do I tell Cecilia, do I not? And now that I've told her, yeah, there's ramifications, but at least I've moved forward. At least I've chosen a path. My mentor would always say, you can't do life wrong, which gave me a big feeling of solace, particularly in those moments when you're making a decision. You're like, I don't know. It's like, either way, you're going to learn from it. Okay. Unless you're hurting somebody else, which sometimes information can hurt in the Cecilia case, but it's like for her best interest to have this information. Whether you choose to do job A or do job B, you're going to learn from it. You're going to grow, and you're going to be able to move forward. Like, really, like, letting ourselves release the paralyzing feeling around, I've got to make the right decision. It's like, either way you're going to learn, either way you're going to grow. And Gemini season is all about eternal student being willing to learn and grow and not being so serious about everything. You know, some things in life are very serious, but in some cases, it's about what is interesting us, where we are learning, where we're able to sort of have this energy of lightness and humor and being able to go towards that and activate it within our world. And on that note, I would definitely recommend doing something fun on Friday night, as the Leo moon does trine Jupiter in Aries. And if there's one thing Leo and Aries know how to do, it's have a good time. And with the moon trine Jupiter, we're likely to just feel a little bit more positive, a little bit more ourselves, a little bit more creative. So definitely do something to celebrate that. Early on Saturday morning, the Leo moon trines Mars in Aries, then it bickers with Venus in Taurus. So I would just say, because we do feel transits as they build up, I would say on Friday night, just being mindful with the Leo moon squaring Venus and Taurus. This feels like to me, like, let's say you go out on the town and afterward you like go to a taco shop. That's what we do in San Diego. Like when we're out and about and maybe had a cocktail or two, we go get burritos. That's like what we do here. Let me know what's commonplace in your city for, you know, when you're hungry, late night. My friend in New York told me pizza is big there when it's like late night, you get a pizza slice, whatever it is. With the Leo moon squaring Venus and Taurus, it exacts super early on Saturday, but we could just feel it on Friday around being like, Leo moon wants to do it big, Venus and Taurus wants to enjoy. So being like, 1 California burrito, what about 12? And then, you know, you can't eat them all. And you don't feel well when you try. So just being mindful around that. And with the Leo moon trining Mars in Aries, you could just notice that you feel a little bit more bold, perhaps a little bit more aggressive, or a little bit more proud. So also just being mindful of that. It exacts so early on Saturday. Honestly, a lot of us might sleep through that energy, but just know for any early birds or anyone, you know, who's in a different time zone, you might be awake for these. Be mindful. And then on Saturday the 4th, because no, we can't have too much fun now that Mercury's direct, Saturn wants to come and stir up a little mischief, okay? With Saturn retrograde, like I said, we feel planets when they switch directions. So you could have a Saturnian vibe on Saturday. Like you could just be feeling more heavy. Maybe, you know, some of you could have had a little bit too much fun the night prior, so you're just feeling drained. Maybe you have to do responsibilities, you have to work. When there's really Saturn heavy days, we can feel like we just have to slog through what it is that we are doing. And it's a Saturn day, Saturday. So it's kind of heightening up this energy. Again, with this sort of taking place, my Capricorn risings and my Aquarius risings could feel this energy more so because it is your ruling planet. And with Saturn retrograde, it's going to sort of review the last couple of months, where it is that we've been investing our time, where it is that we have been building our life brick by brick, where we've been handling our obligations and responsibilities, where we have not. And like I said, no retrograde is going to ruin our life, but what Saturn will do is review Saturnian themes and have us reap what we sow. So for example, if you've been working really hard on something and it's like, I haven't been reaping any successes from this, like I'm putting in all this effort, nothing's happening. Saturn retrograde can be the energy where finally all of that hard work catches up. So I don't want you to go to the worst case scenario. It's only truly bad if people have been like breaking the law or doing something bad and it's like bad karma needs to catch up to them. Hopefully my scammer, not that I would ever wish something bad on someone, but scammer, Saturn's going retrograde. Reap what you sow. That evening, the Leo moon does sextile the Gemini sun. So this is a waxing crescent moon. So typically with waxing crescent moons, I'm like, yeah, take action, move forward. Again, with Mercury retrograde, try to stick to matters that have already been ongoing. We are, you know, slowly building momentum to enter new terrain, but we're not quite there. With the Leo moon sextiling Gemini sun, great time to have conversations, to put yourself out there. Like Leo moon tends to be pretty like confident influence. With the sextile to Gemini, it's like having the confidence to be like, that person looks interesting, let me go talk to them. And like allowing that to be healing. Like any shy girlies, shy people out there, I feel you guys. I don't know if this will be helpful for anyone out there, but you know how like Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, like she has like an alter ego? This is so corny. I can't believe I'm admitting this like on the internet, but I was really, really shy, and I feel like doing this professionally for about 6 years now, which is kind of crazy, but doing this professionally, my name is Haley, but my last name isn't Comet. And that, having that name, it's almost like when I go to these events, because sometimes it's really intimidating. Like when I get booked for events and I'm like talking to so many people, like that used to be something that was very fearful of me. I would be like, what are they thinking of me? But it's like, it's not me. It's Haley Comet. So maybe if you also sort of struggle in that way around shyness or like social anxiety or anything of that nature, not saying this will be a fit for every single person, but having an alter ego before you like walk into that party and being like, but this isn't me. This is Veronica Spice or whoever. Isn't that somebody? I don't know. But having a name, because with the Leo moon trining Chiron in Aries and the Leo moon sextile Gemini sun, there's this energy around this healing vibe around being able to socialize and put ourselves out there. Maybe you're not necessarily at a party. Maybe it's like citing in someone's DMs and be like, what's the worst that they could say? No. There's like this energy around realizing that conversations and connections are worth putting yourself out there for. And with Leo, it's very much like fake it till you make it, fake confidence till you make it. Maybe that's an alter ego, and like walking and being like, well, I'm Haley Comet, so nothing can hurt me. I'm Veronica Spice. And Veronica Spice would walk into this party and boldly go to the snack table and start a conversation about the guacamole. And if there's something that embarrassing happens, that's Veronica Spice. It has nothing to do with you. So just a tip for anyone else who sometimes struggles with feeling shy. And then that evening, the Leo moon does square Uranus and Taurus, so you might be feeling a little restless, craving a little change. Sometimes during this, we can feel a little restless or a little bored, crave a little change, something to like. You know, we do have Mars and Aries, Gemini sun. These are, you know, energies that typically prefer the new, the interesting. So with the Leo moon squaring Uranus and Taurus, this might be the energy if you are at a party or a social gathering where you're sort of like looking around and just being like, is there anyone I haven't talked to here? Like I'm getting a little restless. Can we go somewhere else? Something of that nature. Sunday the 5th does sort of have a bummer vibe as the Leo moon does oppose Saturn. So we might need to slog through responsibilities like, oh, I have to do laundry for real, or I have to fix this. Like with Saturn, it's just sort of a blah influence, and the Leo moon wants to play and have fun, but Saturn is basically like, you see these clothes? How are you gonna have fun when your socks are dirty, you know? And the Leo moon also squares Mercury in Taurus. So this is sort of the part to the vibe check where it's like, we can have the best intentions. It's like, okay, I know Saturn's about to go retrograde, and I know that I'm gonna reap what I sow if I tell this information, but I'm gonna feel good about this decision. I'm gonna feel good about telling my bestie what was up, right? Like, just because something doesn't go our way and we have to have the ramifications around, okay, Cecilia's fighting with her cousin and everybody's mad at me, but it's like, but I still did the right thing. Like this was information that needed to be out there. So with Saturn retrograde, like I don't want you to fear making a decision. Like so long as you can sort of prepare for the consequences, be like, either way, wherever this goes down, I'm gonna feel okay. I'm gonna sleep good at night because I feel good about this decision because I would want someone to tell me, right? And with the kind of part of the vibe check where it's like kind of she blew up, it's out of proportion, she's upset. This is sort of this aspect where it's just a moon aspect, so these are quick, it's nothing too intense. But with the Leo moon squaring Mercury in Taurus, it's like this energy around pride getting in the way of our thought processing. It's like, you know, logically she shouldn't be upset with you because you told her when it felt right for you to do. But with fixed signs, we could be more stubborn and we're not seeing the situation clearly. So with Leo moon squaring Mercury in Taurus, this is the time that I would have the most intensely important conversation on Sunday. And I also just wouldn't take it personally if someone's being really stubborn or not seeing your point of view, because it's a little self-oriented, not self-centered. It's just like not being able to see the logic of the situation over your own personal passion towards it, or their personal passion towards it. And then the moon's void from 4:12 p.m. until it enters Virgo that evening around 11:22 PST, which just draw our awareness to the details of our life, the minutia, the errands, the chores, and what a great way to start our next week, a Virgo Moon Monday, to handle all of our Virgo-like tasks. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is I anchor into my integrity. Integrity is really big this week, just with Saturn retrograde around reaping what we sow. And even with all the energy of like the tea of like the Mercury retrograde, anchoring into your integrity around, should I share this piece of information? Should I mention who on my work team really made that mistake? Like, just knowing once we put something out there, and if it's not something that's aligned with our integrity, where if it were to come back down the line, it would make us look bad or make us feel bad, or wouldn't be aligned with the version of ourselves we're trying to align into. Like, I want you, not in like a too intense way, but I want you to sort of look ahead if you are considering making a decision, revealing a certain part of information, or even if you're just out with the girlies and there's like a piece of hot goss that you just got and you really want to share it with the table, just sort of taking that beat and being like, okay, like, there's nothing wrong around people, you know, bonding over information. I don't think gossip is inherently shameful, but if there's something where it's like, ooh, but once I put this out there, I can't take it back. Is this really the person I want to be? Is this the person I want to show up as? You know, we can't have Saturnian kind of week without sort of bringing into integrity, into our morals and the person that we want to be, as well as just continue to show up as that person and just being intentional and mindful with our language, because there is this energy around what it is that we have reaped, we are sowing, whether it's during the Mercury retrograde story or this upcoming Saturn retrograde one. Time for that sparkly celestial announcement I spoke of earlier. You, my love, are invited to Starry-Eyed Summer, which is an 8-week astrology workshop series. We'll be gathering live on Zoom every single Wednesday. And this is part of my course, Self-Care Astrology, which is packed with video content, quizzes, yoga flows, meditations that are all to support not only your understanding of the outer cosmos, so the foundations of this time-honored tradition of astrology, but also exploring the inner cosmos. So really creating that space to look inward, see what's coming to the surface, understand how to care for your placements, and really unearth the highest potential of your birth chart. So this program is self-paced. However, I really wanted to provide this community aspect this summer by adding on this exclusive bonus. So not only will you get the entire course, all of the content that's within it, all of the educational videos, all of the worksheets, the guidebook, the yoga flows and meditations that sync up with the content that you're learning every single week. Not only is all of that part of it, this summer I'm offering the exclusive bonus of weekly live classes. So we will be gathering so that you can put these skills that you're learning into practice, get feedback on your chart, as well as connect with other astrology enthusiasts. So this add-on is included with every tier in Self-Care Astrology, and I would so love to have you there. So loves, my Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay magical.